And a good Thursday morning, everyone. Welcome to the show. My name is Nick Reed. A reminder, tomorrow morning we will be kicking off Farm Fest at Farm Fest. We'll not be at our normal Friday Road Show location for the show tomorrow. Now, Farm Fest doesn't open until the show concludes. So if you're thinking, oh, well, we'll just come out there during the show, don't bother, because vendors are going to be setting up. Actually, they've been setting up, I believe, already, and today's going to be a big setup day, but we will be doing that broadcast from there tomorrow. Then Saturday, actually, in the noon hour, we generally have a best of show on Saturdays at noon, from noon to 1. But I'll be out there doing a 1-hour live show, and then throughout the day, Saturday and Sunday, checking in during the other programming through the weekend from a number of our different partner locations in the different booths there at Farm Fest. We will have our happy hour Retro Metro tomorrow from 4 to 6, so we'll have that going on also. And we'd love for you to come out and join us between 4 and 6 at Retro Metro tomorrow. And I think that's all that information I need to provide to you at this time. It is Thursday, so we will have Author of the Week, sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone. We have yet another individual with the CIA who has written a book about the weaponization of the institution and just how bad of a place this country is when it comes to those institutions being used as both a shield of the Democrat Party and also a sword against Donald Trump citizens that are supporters of Trump and at times the Republican Party as well. So that Author of the Week will be in the 8 a.m. hour, sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone. Some information yesterday that broke regarding Kamala Harris's husband and alleged physical abuse against a former girlfriend, with all sorts of pretty solid evidence to back it up. Numerous individuals that at the time it happened, she spoke with. There are communications that have been provided that indicate that it did in fact happen, along with the latest revelations that there was $80,000 in hush money to get her to shut her mouth. And the media so far hasn't really talked about this too much. I can tell you exactly what they're doing. And it's been noted by the few balanced outlets that have reported this, that it's been total silence from the Democrats on this. Their hope is that they can just snuff this out. That his alleged physical abuse of a woman and then paying her to keep her mouth shut over the abuse will just go away. They can rely on the media not to report it. If the media, I guarantee you, in the background, the media is trying as best as they can to figure out who these people are so they can, in terms of the witnesses, that way they can learn about their backgrounds, find out if they have any sort of ties to the Republican Party, so that if it does get enough traction to where they have to report on it, they can do so in a way that demonizes and dismisses the victim and turn it around to where poor Doug, the new definition of masculinity, is the actual victim, not the woman that he allegedly hit so hard it spun her around where she stood outside of an event that, oddly enough, Harvey Weinstein was part of. All of these people, on the left, they really, really just click together, don't they? It's amazing how oftentimes their paths cross one another. Kamala Harris has been very vocal in the past about believing individual women who have been either sexually assaulted or physically abused, declaring that she believes the women. And to her credit, when she was asked whether or not she believed Tara Reid, the former staffer of Joe Biden when he was a senator, and she had claimed that he violently sexually assaulted her, Kamala Harris said, yeah, she believed her. Now, that was before she agreed to be his running mate. which is just another fantastic demonstration of how great of a first woman president she would be as an example. She helped usher in somebody to the White House that she declared was a sexual assaulter, and then so far has made no comment whatsoever on the fact that her husband also beats women, or at least in one case did, and then paid her off $80,000 to keep her mouth shut. So the silence is pretty deafening right now. Um, will it get any traction? If the media can do anything about it, of course, they will make sure that nothing comes of it. But what details that there are out there right now, I'll share with you coming up. Joe Biden yesterday declaring that he was siding with Iran over the issue of whether or not Israel should take the natural next step of just eliminating their nuclear capabilities so that they are not, to do it before Lord knows how many tens of thousands of innocent people are killed because of a nuclear device launched by Iran. Obviously, Iran doesn't want that to happen. Hezbollah does not want that to happen. Hamas does not want that to happen. All the terror organizations and the anti-Semites who want to finish what Hitler started, they don't want that to happen. And Joe Biden yesterday declared he, too, does not want that to happen when asked if he would support Israel's effort to prevent that second Holocaust from occurring by taking out their nuclear capabilities. He said no. So once again, America under the Biden administration on the right side of history. We're going to look at the weather here in just a moment. Pyramid Roofing Company, talk and text line 447 KSGF. Latest news.
In the first alert forecast from Color 10, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 87. Tonight clear with a low around 59. For your Friday, sunny with a high near 87. And on Saturday, sunny with a high near 88.
That Sandcrest trailers mentioning that
Yeah.
trailer there. That we're going to we're out there at Farm Fest on Sunday, and the winner for that is going to be drawn. Where do we have all the information on that? And people, you can purchase raffle tickets for it. It is a very, very, very high-end, nice trailer, and all of the proceeds go to Warrior's Journey. Incredible partners, and people can buy online. Correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So we have a link to the raffle at ksgf.com. It's in that homepage slider that we often talk about. I think it's either the first or second slide on there. I think it's right after the happy hour one. And you'll see the trailer. And also on our social media, if you follow us on there, I actually just posted a video.
Okay.
Sandcrest Trailers, they made a really nice
I saw
video.
that. I saw that.
So, and they tagged us in it. So
I think that's why I saw it, because you had posted it.
Yeah,
that's why I
they
saw
tagged us in it, and I shared it. So if you want to check out the trailer, you want more information, highly recommend head over to our social media or head over to ksgf.com.
And, as I mentioned, it goes to an incredible cause. If you aren't familiar with Warrior's Journey, I recommend that you check out their site. We've been partnering with them for a couple months now.
Couple months.
Yeah, we've done a couple of things and had them on air in the past, but now we've got a real solid relationship going with them and the incredible work they do. They're one of the sponsors for when we have the Heroes Breakfast, and they join us out there for that and help make that possible. But that incredible donation from Sandcrest, and I honestly, I don't know a great deal about trailers, but Jeremy on our end, who has, those are some of his clients, was going on and on, telling me, explaining to me, what was so great about the trailer. And he's like, it's such a nice trailer. He said he wished he needed one right now, because it's just so fantastic in quality. And again, all the proceeds for those raffle tickets go to Warrior's Journey, and you can purchase those online. And it's going to be drawn Sunday, I believe, at the end of around the end of Farm Fest. And I like that, because you don't have to wait forever. A lot of these higher end giveaways, oftentimes, if you ever sign up and you look and it's like, oh, well, it'll be given away 2026. You think, oh, because they want to get as much out of it as possible. But instant gratification for you, possibly, if you purchase those tickets in the next couple of days. Sunday will be the drawing for that. Biden will not support a strike on Iran's nuclear sites. Now, what Biden has declared, no, the response needs to be proportional. So evidently, according to Joe Biden, what Israel needs to do is kidnap hundreds and hundreds of innocent civilians. According to Biden, this is how absurd. The rhetorical position of Biden. See, doesn't that sound nice? Well, it should be a proportional response. Well, that feels good, right? It's like, well, that's fair. But think about what that means. That means that the IDF, without any sort of warning whatsoever, launch into citizen festivals, marketplaces, people's homes, rape women and children in front of their families, light them on fire, live stream some of the torture, call the family members of, because this would be a proportional response. This is what was done to the people of Israel. And then keep them. Kidnap as many as possible. Hide them under hospitals, hide them under daycares, hide them under elementary schools. Rape them on a daily basis, men and women. Beat them, torture them. Force them to call their family members while it's done. Video it and then send the video out for family members to see, so as to torture even those that they don't have. This is what is supposed to be done. This is what the Israelis are supposed to do? Because Joe Biden says that their response needs to be proportional. And of course, Hamas was acting as a proxy for Iran. So it's all connected. Even if you were to have a proportional response, it is almost agonizing, the level of stupidity here. So what did Iran do? We'll forget what has been the ongoing attacks and torture of innocent civilians over the past almost year now. Most recently, they launched almost 200 missiles into civilian areas of Israel. Of course, they weren't able to actually kill any Israelis. There was a Palestinian that was killed. But because of the advanced technologies of the Iranians, it was all shot down. But Iran shot, the estimates, anywhere from 170 to a little over 200 of these missiles into civilian areas. So is that what Israel's supposed to do? That would be a proportional response to just that one single event. Now, let me ask you, and particularly if you are one who hates conflict to the point that you will avoid it at all costs and just want peace, which do you think is the response that gets that as a more likely outcome? If Israel was to proportionally respond to Iran, as Biden has said, by launching almost 200 missiles into civilian areas of Iran, or if they took out a nuclear facility that is going to be used to develop and is being used to develop nuclear weapons. It's a no-brainer. It is an absolute no-brainer. Taking out a nuclear facility as opposed to launching hundreds of missiles into civilian areas would result in much lower death count, particularly for innocent Iranians, and potentially, Israel, when they've launched an attack against the nuclear capabilities of Iran in the past, they gave a bit of a heads up so that as many people would not be there as possible. I don't know that they would necessarily do that this time around. But the fact of the matter is, if body count is what you're so concerned about, and it's this administration that demands and has been demanding that every move Iran make minimizes civilian casualties, but Biden says, but when it comes to this particular situation with Iran, you need to proportionally respond, which means launching missiles into civilian areas as opposed to taking out their nuclear facilities. What the hell sense does that make? It makes no sense. Having a proportional response to Iran results in only one thing, and that's innocent civilians getting killed. It isn't taking out, nuclear capabilities. It's not doing anything that diminishes the likelihood of future killings of people on either side. This guy, you can understand now, if one did not before, why Robert Gates, defense secretary in the Obama administration, said in his book and then reiterated when asked about it in an interview with Norah O'Donnell, I believe it was, that as much as he liked Joe Biden and thought he was a swell guy, he's wrong on everything when it comes to foreign policy, absolutely everything. And I don't know that there is a more ludicrous position. And the problem, of course, with the media today is that when Joe Biden says, well, there needs to be a proportional response, they don't explore what that looks like. There's no, so you think that they should launch missiles into civilian areas? This is what you think that they should do? Target innocent people? Now, I'm sure the response will be, well, of course not. Well, then what do you mean? When you say, no, I'm on the side of Iran when it comes to this issue, and Israel should not take out their nuclear capabilities, they should have a proportional response. What does that mean? Can you give us an example? Or do we need to sit down, open up the dictionary, and look up what that means? It is remarkable. This guy, frankly, is so off the mark when it comes to these foreign policy decisions and so wrong. I think that we almost lose sight of how stupid he is when it comes to this stuff. Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed. The Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line regarding Biden siding with Iran over the issue as to whether or not Israel should take out their nuclear capabilities, preventing a second Holocaust, and that instead they should just have a proportional response without, of course, identifying what that means. Proportional responses in war do not end wars, they only extend them. And of course, that's true. This is the other very obvious point of the ironic position of those who claim that they want the killing to stop, pushing for proportional responses. All that does is drag it out. Oh, you killed 2% of their folks? All right, now you killed 2% of their. Then back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. No one in proportional response is allowed to throw and land the knockout punch, because that's disproportionate. Oh, now you just hit them too hard. That's not fair. They only did this amount of damage. So that's the amount of damage you should do back to them. Well, it goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. The One of the greatest examples, of course, of this is the dropping of atomic bombs in order to get things wrapped up, stop the killing. Clearly, in one or two shots, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the amount of damage was done in two fell swoops in a manner that was disproportionate. It wrapped things up, got it done and over with. The pushing of a way of going about dealing with a military conflict as only doing enough to match what they have done to you, but not enough to end things. But see, they get to feel good about themselves because they run around making these peace deals that neither side has any interest in whatsoever. That is absolutely meaningless, other than it allows them to virtue signal. Look at us calling for an end to this. Meanwhile, if this isn't just the perfect illustration of everything about this administration, doing things that have absolutely no real true impact on the situation at hand. Oh, but boy, they get to be morally superior, while what they push for actually drags things out indefinitely. Going to get a check on the traffic then. I want to share with you the latest developments with Kamala Harris's husband being accused by multiple sources of physically assaulting a past girlfriend so violently that it literally spun her around in her, while she stood there. And then the alleged $80,000 in hush money. Evidently, in this country, if you're a Republican and you're alleged to have paid hush money to someone that you had a consensual relationship for, you should go to prison for that. Or a consensual relationship with, you should go to prison for that. If you're a Democrat and you pay hush money because you physically assaulted someone, hey! I mean, come on. Who doesn't do that, right? After all, that's not hush money. That's a non-disclosure agreement.
Springfield's Talk 1041, your first alert forecast from Color 10 Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 87. Tonight clear with a low around 59. For your Friday, sunny with a high near 87. And on Saturday, sunny with a high near 88.
Bradford Light, tailored for the hardworking men and women who appreciate a reliable, easy drinking experience. Modest ABV, that's alcohol by volume. 3.8%. The Golden Elixir, a tribute to the industrious spirit that defines the heartland and hitting shelves in Springfield thanks to Show Me Beverage from the Kansas Territory Brewing Company out of Washington, Kansas. And you can find out about them, their history, and their offerings at KansasTerritoryBrewCo.com. I wanted to... All right, I thought that I had read... I had this thought. I had a thought. And I thought, I need to make this point about the situation with Iran before we move on. But I do not remember what that point was. So... perhaps I will remember it. It was a really good point. It was definitely a good point. But I'm going to move on to the next subject instead of sitting here and forcing you to listen to me try to remember. Kamala Harris's husband, Doug Emhoff, forcefully slapped ex-girlfriend for flirting with another man. So, in other words, she probably had it coming, right? I mean, we got to protect him. Vice President Kamala Harris's husband assaulted his ex-girlfriend, 3 friends have told DailyMail.com. The second gentleman, Doug Emhoff. This is the guy that MSNBC is presenting as redefining masculinity. This is something that most Americans didn't realize had occurred, but apparently, according to Jen Psaki, it did. The second gentleman, gentle, 59, allegedly struck the woman in the face so hard she spun around while waiting in a valet line late at night after a May 2012 Cannes Film Festival event in France. One of her friends revealed that the woman called him immediately after the incident, sobbing in her cab, and described the alleged assault. DailyMail.com is not naming the woman, who is a successful New York attorney, but will refer to her by the pseudonym Jane. A second friend said Jane, who had been dating Emhoff for 3 months, also told her about the alleged violence at the time. A third friend told DailyMail.com that Jane first told her in 2014 that she had dated Emhoff and recounted the full story of his abuse in 2018 when then-Senator Harris was in the news after grilling Supreme Court Justice Kavanaugh in a Senate hearing over sexual assault allegations. By the way, and it's been noted, there are more witnesses that are saying, as soon as this happened. I mean, the one witness to this event saying, I was on the phone with her, she was sobbing. Then there were witnesses this close to the accusations that Brett Kavanaugh committed some sort of sexual assault. I think it's pretty interesting that the third witness was revealed this information by her friend, the victim, during those hearings. Because clearly the victim is watching Kamala Harris go on and on as if she is some champion of believing all women, and here this woman knows she's married to a guy that beat her. The story reads that the allegations are a striking contrast to Emhoff's benevolent image promoted by Harris' campaign and his media interviews portraying him as an ally to women. Jane declined to comment. The shocking claim follows revelations by DailyMail.com that Emhoff cheated on his first wife and the mother of his 2 kids around 2008, impregnating his daughter's nanny, who also worked as her grade school teacher, and then she, we're told, quote, got rid of it. Now, I think that the latter accusations certainly open up some new questions about the previous. Now that we know, at least if we're going to believe all victims, that if this is a guy who will assault his girlfriend because he thinks that she flirted with someone, what do you think he would do to a nanny that he knocked up who maybe says, I want to keep this baby? Generally, if someone in public has so little ability to control themselves that they can't stop from physically assaulting a woman in a public setting, that's usually not a first-time behavior. It's usually not an anomaly. That is, generally speaking, the sort of thing that that person is so accustomed to doing that even in public, they can't stop themselves. So, looking back, and it's pretty safe to assume, though not guaranteed, that the nanny he knocked up killed her unborn child. Now, it could have been adoption, but generally the verbiage that's used when there's an adoption is, well, she gave up the baby, not got rid of it. And if he is, in fact, as abusive as these allegations indicate, was this something that she did willingly, or did he hit her too? These, of course, are questions that the media seemingly have no interest whatsoever in addressing. Imhoff would eventually admit to knocking up the nanny, who was also his daughter's teacher, after Daily Mail published the story last month. All three of Jane's friends said she also told them about a disturbing alleged incident during her relationship with the second gentleman, in which Imhoff nonchalantly admitted to knocking up the nanny. Imhoff told Jane that the nanny accused him of causing her to have a miscarriage, the friend claimed. Doesn't that sound like the sort of thing that a psychopathic, abusive boyfriend would say? Probably called her the B word in the process. She accused me of causing her to have a miscarriage. She was trash. You can just hear it. According to the friends, Imhoff did not say how he was allegedly responsible for the miscarriage, and he told Jane that the nanny's claims were false. But the second gentleman allegedly confessed to Jane that he paid the nanny a settlement of around $80,000 and had the nanny sign a non-disclosure agreement. Now, he's a Democrat, so it's called an NDA. If you're a Republican, it's called hush money. Just so we understand. So there's no confusion. So if the media does cover this and they start talking about NDAs, that's what they would call hush money if it were Donald Trump. Imhoff was previously dubbed by Democrats as a wife guy and a mensch, a Yiddish term for an honorable, kind man. He's also spoken out in media interviews about being an ally to women and against toxic masculinity. Oftentimes, abusers are, not just the physically abusive, but those who are emotionally abusive as well. They really present themselves as champions of women. That's not an uncommon trait. According to the stories from the witnesses with the girlfriend that he allegedly physically assaulted, that the relationship involved a lot of what's called love bombing, which, again, is something that is common amongst psychopaths who end up being emotional and physical abusers. It's like right out of the gate. It is nonstop. You're the most wonderful thing ever. It's called love bombing, and it's what oftentimes is seen as a real red flag. The alleged strike to the heart of the benevolent image occurred when Jane was given tickets by wealthy friends to go to the Foundation of AIDS Research Gala Dinner, an elite charity auction filled with top celebrities and Hollywood executives, held in 2012 at the Hotel du Cap in Antibes near Cannes in southern France. Attendees that year included Cara Delevingne, Antonio Banderas, Alec Baldwin, Karl Lagerfeld, Kylie Minogue, Kirsten Dunst, Paris Hilton. It's, the lefty elites. The friends said Jane brought her then-boyfriend Imhoff as a +1. One of Jane's friends, a top New York businessman, said he was at home getting ready for bed that night when he got an unexpected phone call from her. Quote, "It was hard to hear her because she was sobbing. She told me she was with a guy and he hit her." It was very clear what she was telling me. She said that she was with this guy, her date. She was at the film festival and he hit her. She was in the car with the guy at the time. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know whether to call the French police. I could not get a hold of her after calling her back. He said he still has a vivid memory of the troubling conversation from 12 years ago. In later conversations, but pretty contemporaneous with that, she told me more about the guy, he added. It was something like 3 a.m. They were trying to get out of there, and they both had been drinking. There was a gigantic line for taxis. Jane went up to one of the valet guys, offered him 100 euros or whatever to get to the head of the line. She told me she put her hand on his shoulder. Doug apparently thought that was flirting, so he came over and hit her. And then further details. May 17th, 2012 email provided by the friend, written by Jane to one of her fellow attendees, gives the location of the hotel in Nice the couple stayed at the weekend. And so there's, a great deal of evidence to back this up. But here's what is going to happen. The media is going to do everything they can to ignore it. This is not a victim that we are to believe. This will be, if it is even covered, if they feel that they have to cover this, it will be done in a way that presents it as, political, some sort of, political attempt at an October surprise. It was a long time ago. It's really unfair for some random people who are anonymously making these allegations because he can't even defend himself. And then they'll just make it all go away. Because the only victims we believe are victims that can be used in order to harm political opponents of Democrats. I mean, look at Tara Reade. Credibly accused Joe Biden of violent sexual assault. Let's not forget that when Joe Biden was a Secret Service agent, or when Joe Biden was vice president, a Secret Service agent was disciplined for physically attacking Joe Biden because Joe Biden sexually assaulted his girlfriend. And there's been no denial. In fact, when Judicial Watch did a FOIA request in order to get the disciplinary, the information about it, the Secret Service, we don't have that any longer. It was part of regular housekeeping that was destroyed. So it was an acknowledgement that the incident did occur. See, we don't believe those victims. Those victims don't count. The only victims that count are victims that can be used as weapons against political opposition to the Democrats. And this is another example. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. 10 a.m. tomorrow, live at KSGF.com. Local for Less Ozarks. You can get combo passes to Hotel of Terror and Dungeons of Doom for $21.50. It's normally $43, but you can get the pair for $21.50. That will be at KSGF.com tomorrow. 10 a.m. We will be broadcasting live from the Ozark Empire Fairgrounds tomorrow, kicking off Farm Fest. As we prep for that, I'll do a special 1-hour show on Saturday at noon, and then check in throughout the day, Saturday and Sunday, with our different partners there. In fact, partners such as Wheeler Metals, Sandcrest, Trailers, Marshfield Chevy, Helitech, Race Brothers, Flying Feathers, Monday Trailers. And Brad Pistol, host of Safe Money Radio, sponsoring our weekend out there. So a big thank you to him. And then we will have Happy Hour at Retro Metro 4 to 6 tomorrow afternoon. I want to just briefly here give you a glimpse of what the future will look like if Israel does not take out Iran's nuclear capabilities, as Joe Biden is suggesting. He's suggesting that they don't. He's siding with Iran over this one, which is pretty consistent. Got to give him something for consistency. When it comes down to it, he's got the back of Iran, and he does in this particular issue as well. It's not as if Iran is really secret about their desires for what will happen to Israel. I mean, it's pretty open and clear. And they'll use a nuclear weapon to destroy it. Oh, and the world will be outraged. The people who, like Joe Biden, said, no, let Iran have their nuclear weapons. They'll, figure out a way to blame Trump, of course. They'll, so outraged. Oh, so outraged they will be. And then their response will not be leveling Iran in order to make sure all other countries understand that this is unacceptable. That will not be the response. The response will be to call for all countries, and the United States will lead by example, getting rid of our nuclear weapons. It will be the nuclear weapons that are the issue, not the anti-Semites who run Iran and want to finish what Hitler started, not the people who used the nuclear weapons in order to try and completely eliminate Jews from the planet by striking Israel. No. A little of the blame they'll give to Trump, of course, because he's Trump. But the rest of it will be the existence of nuclear weapons, and they will use it as a call to eliminate nuclear weapons, call for all countries. And we must lead by example. That's what a post-nuclear attack at the hands of Iran on Israel will look like. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. A lot of the news of the day is going to be surrounded by the latest attempt to alter the outcome of the election and interfere in the election. Ironically, um, and I say ironically because the accusation is that Trump should go to prison for interfering in the last election, or in the 2020 election. And Jack Smith, 165-day page filing. And it's more of the same. This is an unsealing of the indictment, and he encouraged the masses to storm the Capitol, and that by spreading disinformation about the election, he caused the disenfranchisement of voters and caused the insurrection to occur. So it's more of the same. I mean, none of this is anything new whatsoever. It's just another. And isn't it amazing the timing of this? Happens around the time that the White House is completely demonstrating they have no control in what's going on in the Middle East. They're failing miserably when it comes to post-hurricane efforts, and they are failing miserably when it comes to the strikes at our ports. Like it is constant chaos. And, looky here what we have to talk about now. Christy Fulnecki in the upcoming hour. iwantagreathomeloan.com. If you'd like a great home loan, then just go to iwantagreathomeloan.com. It's very convenient. Easy to remember that way. Now, if you want one that's mediocre, subpar, or anywhere else along the spectrum, yeah, you can find those anywhere. You don't even really have to necessarily know what their specific address is because there's a lot of them out there. But if you do want a great home loan or you just have any questions about refinancing or the home loan itself, what that looks like, should you wait? Will interest rates go down again? Your interest rate that you're locked into right now is lower. So why would you refinance? Well, there could be reasons that could actually save you money. It just depends on your situation. And the Character team is there to help you along the way. That's what they do. And it all starts at iwantagreathomeloan.com because you do. Tomorrow we'll be broadcasting live as we kick off Farm Fest. We'll be out at the fairgrounds doing the show. Just a heads up for you. Saturday, a 1-hour show in the noon hour from there as well. And then we'll be checking in throughout Saturday and Sunday from the different, some of the different partners of ours that happen to be out there during that period of time. They don't happen to be out there, deliberately out there. 4 to 6 Retro Metro happy hour tomorrow as well. And I want to remind you that if you follow them on social media, you see that they have shifted their focus to just being a dinner destination, much like, Metropolitan Grill and a number of the other finer restaurants are. But we still do have our lunch bunch there. It's just now a private event. So instead of being there for lunch bunch, when they are open for lunch, we have the place to ourselves. And to get signed up for that, if you want to join, Sarah and me will host you and up to 5 of your friends for that private lunch at Retro Metro. We do it every Wednesday. Just go to ksgf.com and find the lunch bunch registration there and get yourself signed up. It's that easy. Hey, everyone, it's Christy Fulnecki.
Good morning. I need to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why you haven't ever signed up.
I know I don't know where to go, but now I know it's ksgf.com.
Yeah.
Thank you. It took me 10 years to figure that out.
Yes, you are
Yes,
on the ball.
I am.
Of course, you're always welcome to come to happy hour. It's only been a year and a half.
No, it's not been a year and a half.
Really?
I think maybe it was a Christmas time.
Okay, so
last
a
year.
year.
Yeah. I know. There's just a lot going on.
You are busy.
Yes.
I will grant you
Yes.
that. You're a
few
busy
things.
person.
Yeah. I have 2 full-time jobs, so
What's
Yeah.
I didn't.
I have 6 kids.
Oh.
And I'm an attorney.
Oh, that's right. You're
Yeah,
a mom. That's a quote job. Yeah. Oh, okay.
You know what I was just thinking? I can't wait. Everybody's praying that Trump wins, but I just can't wait until we have good news all the time. I mean, that is going to be great because just think in a week's time from me coming from last Thursday, this Thursday, how many things have happened in 1 week?
And they're so absent. They're so absent.
In just 1 week, so much is happening. And just think what the next week will bring.
And
It's so
when
scary.
you talk about good news and back to good news, people on the left, of course, they're like, what are you talking about? It was the worst time ever. Well, it was the worst time in their head because they hate it.
Because they have mental illness.
It may have been bad to you, but when the average person who doesn't have some sort of hatred for Donald Trump, or, a person that's not even really interested in politics, but they're coming home with a raise and the paycheck raises are far, far exceeding the rate of inflation, which was, at such low levels. And people were getting jobs and starting businesses. And I mean, you look at that period of time up until COVID and just it was like good times, and the only bad times again were in the minds of the left. What did they always complain about? Tweets.
Yeah.
That's how good things were when
Yeah,
that
right.
I mean, really, you think
that's
about
true. That's true,
that
yeah.
is how good things were going with the economy, with the peace deals in the Middle East, with Russia had stopped their invasion of Ukraine, which had started under Obama. The nuclear testing had stopped with North Korea. NATO, for the first time, the NATO members were increasing their share of the financial contribution, which had not happened until Trump, convinced them that it was in their best interest to do so. And what is it that the left complained about? His tweets. Did you hear what he said? Did you hear what he said? Like, that is how good things were, that is all that they could find. Or they make up stuff like the Russian hoax. I mean, other things that,
They had time to, yeah.
yeah, well, that may
Yeah,
have
right.
had substance if they were true. They weren't even true. So we've gone from that to just in a week's time, you've got this, hurricanes happen, but the response of this increasingly is a horrific disaster. You have increasingly people in volunteers. In fact, I don't know that we'll get to it today, but I have audio from, like, there was one guy there was a local news story out of Charlotte, South Carolina, which evidently is also a Queen City. It was Queen City News. It's a Queen City, just yeah.
Okay.
And he and his son were rescuing people with their helicopter, and then somebody with some government entity tried to have him arrested for doing it. So he gave up. He fought because he didn't want to get arrested. There was a whole news story around it, and left people stranded that were.
Yeah.
And then there was another guy who was from Florida who had gone up there to help, and he had background in military and so forth. And he had been working with other civilians who had helicopters. Which, by the way, I've learned a lot more people own helicopters than I knew.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's right. You're talking to everyone too, and it's just like all of a sudden everyone has helicopters, and he made a post on some social media site just about how horrible that the government has been, and that he was talking about some specific areas in which there were military helicopters sitting there, and because he had military background, was chatting with the guys and like, well, what are you guys? And they're like, well, we can't do anything, we still haven't gotten such and such orders. He's like, what are you talking? They're like, yeah, we've just been sitting here waiting. Well, and he said he said they're flying over and they're finding people that are stranded. And it's not hard. He says you go through certain areas near where the river is, and you can find SOS made in rocks and stuff. And he goes, and there are all these people stranded, and the military's just sitting there waiting for orders because this government is doing that. So you've got that. Of course, you got the border crisis.
Yeah.
Then you've got this situation with the strike going on, in which Biden's like, yeah, I'm staying out of it. Then Israel launching, or I mean, Iran launching this attack on Israel. It's just
within
nonstop. Yeah.
Saying within a week.
And things do happen. But what the problem is, the response to it is to always be behind the curve, there's no leadership in the truest definition. It is always, they're the last person to the microphone that come about after everyone's like, where are you?
Well,
where are you?
The thing that surprises me is that you would think Biden, thinking of his legacy, and Kamala actually running for president, that they would go out, and then Trump would be the first one to go out and be on the ground helping people and speaking. I mean, to me, I would be so embarrassed that he would be there, and then Glenn Beck and all these other, private organizations going out and flying in there and dropping food and water.
Well, but think about even the escape from Afghanistan. What ended up happening there? The Biden administration.
Right.
Well, we don't currently have plans. So you had people like Glenn Beck and citizens, and you'd have some.
It's on the radio here. These private people that
are
in and rescue people from Afghanistan.
Same thing after October 7th in Israel. We had on air here family that were caught and stranded in Israel after October 7th. And then once they were able to escape, then they were, came in studio and talked about the experience. But while every other country was evacuating their citizens, there nothing whatsoever from the United States. And here, the same thing. It's, you've got this, which is fantastic, that citizens are stepping up. But some of this stuff, for Pete's sake, it's like, where is this administration? What are they doing?
You almost wonder, think they don't care. I mean, that these people, the Appalachia area, I mean, this is kind of like, all these people that have been forgotten, these regular people. And you almost think it's almost deliberate, because you're seriously in power and you're not, and you're running for office, and you don't even show up to even do a photo.
Hawaii was another example. I mean, you could just think of example after example in which people had to, and they get essentially shamed into doing something. But you mention deliberate, and one of the videos posted by a guy who's just furious because of not just the fact that the government is failing miserably here, but they are trying to stop citizens from helping. And they're trying to take credit for things that the citizens are doing. And he made an offhand comment. He's like, he goes, I hear the conspiracy theories. He goes, I don't know what the reason is. And for people who don't know, what many are noting here is that some of these areas are red areas. They're red counties.
Yeah, right.
And so they're wondering, why is it that is it because these are Republican voters, and so they don't really have, like, what's the point? They're not going to vote for us anyway. We got the election coming up. We don't have to worry about it. Heck, if anything, if we don't move things along, maybe they won't even be able to vote. And while some people will say that's crazy, that's a conspiracy theory, when you have an administration this incompetent,
I know.
people try to figure it out. They're like, you cannot be this incompetent on purpose. I mean, it's got to be on purpose. And so that's why these conspiracy theories come up so often, because no one can figure out how it is that they can be so totally incompetent. We got Christy Fulnecki here. We're going to get traffic in a moment. Right now, the latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Color 10 Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 87. Tonight clear with a low around 59. For your Friday, sunny with a high near 87. And on Saturday, sunny with a high near 88.
Tomorrow, 10 a.m. at KSGF.com, local for less. Half-price combo passes to Hotel of Terror and Dungeons of Doom. Normally that's a $43 deal, but you can get them at KSGF.com at 10 o'clock tomorrow for $21.50. Yeah, Christy Fulnecki here. Did you watch or
Did
hear
I
any
watch?
clips of the VP
I mean,
debate?
I mean, I love politics. Of course, I watched it.
Well, Tim,
And can I just say something?
yeah,
Is that guy really a governor of the state? I was thinking, are you kidding me? I mean, who in that state voted for him? Is
when
my first question.
every
Okay.
time they show clips of him, B-roll as they call it, because we've got the monitors in here, and so the volume's down, but
That's
like
so funny.
it's there's not a tremendous amount of footage of him. So what they generally show is him coming out on a stage before a crowd, and he just I just think of Chris Farley every time he comes out. Like he's waving those arms real big. I expect him to like be pulling up his pants on each side, like the guy down by the river. And I said the other day, if Chris Farley were alive, he would be returning to SNL to play this guy.
That's funny. The first thing I think of is Stranger Danger. When I see him,
Like if you see that guy driving a van, pull him over.
yeah, no, creepy. And speaking of
Hey, little
weird,
boy, want a tampon?
that guy is. I can't figure it out. I mean, he calls himself a knucklehead, but I don't know. He intentionally must be smart enough that he remembers his lies, except for. I mean, that was probably the most embarrassing thing I've ever seen when they were asking about Tenement Square. I mean,
I just love. I'm just a
It was
knucklehead.
just so awkward to watch.
It
He
was
just froze, and he's
so-
like, "That's it. That's what I said."
I mean, crashing and burning right there on live TV.
As
You
much
know-
as they tried desperately to help him and were on his side, when he got to the end, she didn't, when he was trying to explain the Tiananmen Square lie, and he gets to the end and stops, and she doesn't say anything, and so he. that, I know, and I think
was
though
so
I don't. She clearly didn't do it deliberately, like to make him look like an idiot. It just worked out that way.
You know, can you imagine if the moderators actually did their job and on every point they would do that to the other side? And I mean, I cannot stand these. I could not hardly. The thing is, normally I can't stand watching the Democrats, but he was clearly crashing and burning on his own. But the moderators, how they set those questions up,
Oh yeah.
I mean, it is so terrible. And especially, I mean, really, what was it? The second question was on climate change. I thought, really? I mean, I could tell you the number one thing is not climate change. Everybody's watching this on TV, but
Well, they didn't
I mean,
ask him about stolen valor. They didn't, I mean, there were just a lot of things that his false claims about serving in combat and, I mean,
the city burning to the ground.
yeah.
That's what January 6th, and then you don't say anything to him about cheering the
Yeah.
criminals in his city burning his own city to the
Yeah,
ground. I
refusing
mean,
to
that
dispatch
seems like
National
an
Guard.
obvious question.
Oh, of course not.
I mean, that was not even a fair fight. I mean, I've heard some people saying last night that they thought, JD Vance should have been more aggressive, but I mean,
No, I think that it was fine.
it's very, I mean, and sometimes depending on your personality, like I told one of my clients this because she is a big city in Missouri, and she was literally, I just got her as a client, and she was screaming at the judge at the top of her lungs. I couldn't get her to calm down. And I said, sometimes, fighting is not yelling. Fighting is,
Right.
sometimes people can't hear you when you're screaming.
Mhm.
So, I mean, and it took a lot of years for me to learn this, but, you can make your points and fight without doing that. And sometimes, I thought his approach was very appropriate because he made all of his points that he wanted to, and he interrupted the moderator when they're not being fair. But he didn't do it in a way that's rude because, I mean, he has a lot to balance, especially, he was trying to, I guess, appeal to women. And so, I mean, I have never seen someone do so well in a debate. He did great.
Well, Tim Walz has made one clarification post-debate that he, he misspoke, which he does that a lot. Some people call them lies, but he calls it misspeaking, that he actually hasn't made friends with school shooters. That was one of the claims that he made in the debate, that I'm made friends with school shooters. That what he meant, he said, quote, I was talking about meeting people where there are school shooters. I need to be more specific on that. No, I don't think I don't think specificity was the issue. I think it was you just said something that wasn't true.
You how nervous he was because he wasn't even thinking about what he was saying. I mean, you have to be careful if you're going to be vice president, you're going to say your friends with school shooters. I mean,
He's just being
everybody kind of
folksy.
friends with terrorists.
He's,
Oops. I mean, I really didn't mean to say that during the press conference.
he's just being folksy.
I mean,
That's
that's
folksy. Speaking of the Vance and the woman angle here, Politico had a piece in which they interviewed a body language expert that worked at the FBI. And among other things, his analysis in Politico was that J.D. Vance's beard could convey aggressiveness and sort of anti-woman personality
what?
traits, while J.D. Vance, while his eyes were really wide and open, most of us see that as, we call that deer in the headlight look. According to this body analyst, that actually was a demonstration of compassion and danger is close. So J.D. Vance, it was a sign of how dangerous J.D. Vance is, of course. This is
Oh, no, yeah. You mean how dangerous Waltz is, like to your children?
yeah, trying to, like I said, most weirdos, you have to worry about them trying to invite kids into a van with puppies and ice cream and candy. For him, it'd be tampons. So
Yeah.
I don't know
I
how
mean, that's the
effective.
most ridiculous thing I think I've ever heard.
Well, they're grasping at straws. Christy Fulnecki
Yeah.
is with us. Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line 447 KSGF. I'm Nick Reed. A1 Custom Car Care, all of your car care needs, big, small, everything in between. And one of the things that Sarah and you guys still planning on talking about the flooding of vehicles on Saturday during the
Yes.
show. Sarah, of course, co-hosting with Dustin Atwood of A1 Custom Car Care, and that can be real damaging vehicles. But here's the other thing I've learned is that they can do a very, very, very good job of cleaning those vehicles up, and you would have no clue whatsoever that it has had flood damage. And oftentimes what occurs, and it may be real low mileage because it was sitting in a parking lot or like in a dealer lot, and it went underwater, and they end up here or elsewhere throughout the country, and it looks like this wonderful vehicle without that real in-depth inspection from A1 Custom Car Care. You may not have any clue that there has been severe water damage done. And so just as I mentioned, that's something that Dustin and Sarah plan on talking about on Saturday with the show. And if you do miss it, you're not able to listen to it, we've got the on-demand section. You can hear it at ksgf.com with A1 Custom Car Care.
Springfield's Talk 1041, your first alert forecast from Color 10, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 87. Tonight clear with a low around 59. For your Friday, sunny with a high near 87. And on Saturday, sunny with a high near 88.
Pyramid Roofing Company Talk text line. My wife and I are in our early 30s, or early 40s, late 30s, and I can tell you she thinks Vance is very well-spoken, very composed, thinks that he is a very good vice presidential candidate and will support him for president if he runs after Trump. You know,
Wow.
and here's what.
That's great.
Well, and let me tell you what has occurred here. Most of the people who watch the debate have never really even seen either of those two individuals in a real conversational capacity.
Mm-hmm.
All they know is what they hear from the media and SNL and Stephen Colbert and these other shows, and that is that Walz is this folksy, all-American Midwest guy, and then J.D. Vance is this horrible person that, is mean to old cat ladies, and he's this crazy right-winger, and so they go into it expecting that. Well, then they find out, especially with Vance, like, well, that's not him at all.
I know.
So,
Shocked, yeah.
So the media actually did him a service because they presented him in a way that people expected, especially women, they expected to feel negative feelings about him, but the opposite happened. And so whereas if they knew what to expect, you sort of create these false expectations, and that benefits him.
Yeah.
It's a detriment to Walz because then there's a disappointment there. We're like, well, this guy seems kind of like an idiot. This guy does not seem folksy Midwesterner to me. He seems like he's a lying piece of crap politician. Pervert.
Yeah. Did you see how sad all the commentators were? I think I had the chicks on CNN. I mean, everybody was so sad. Then they said, well, Walz should have probably done more interviews, local and national. And I thought,
he did he's done a lot of interviews in his time, because you can find that's where he was lying about serving in combat and going into Hong Kong during the Tiananmen Square massacre. So he's done a lot of interviews over time.
I'm sure there are campaigns like, you just have to stop talking. Do not say anything.
They should have had
every time he talks, he lies.
Yeah, they should have had him just memorize scripts like Kamala did for the debate.
I know, yeah.
They're like, that went so well. You know what? We're really going to just let you run with this thing. You're folksy, right? They don't even know what it means. Like, I am folksy. Like, okay, you're really going to relate. People are going to like your freewheeling way of answering things, and wheels came off.
On the short bus came off, and I don't think they prepared him, because you really, to debate somebody like J.D. Vance and did you ever read his book or the movie, the Hillbilly book?
No, the Hillbilly book.
And the movie, you just watch a movie. I'm telling you, to come out of what he did, it's one thing to grow up in poverty, but to grow up in such dysfunction, and then you still make it through that, go in the military. That really, really built him as a person. And then you have an Ivy League education as an attorney. Yeah. Walz had no chance. I don't think they prepared him well at all.
I believe that they probably did not prepare him beyond just the minimum. And I think that their perspective going into it is that J.D. Vance is very lawyerly. He's going to be very stiff, very clinical, and Walz,
and not
just
human.
And be overly analytical about things because of his experience as a lawyer. So let's appeal, and he'll talk over people's heads. So let's just let Walz be Walz. And he just, be his folksy, charming self, and, like somebody that's twiddling sticks at Silver Dollar City, and, talk, oh, hey, how you doing there, youngins? and that will work, because
that's your Muppet thing, and it comes out again. Your Muppet impression just came out again.
And it didn't work, because, I don't know, it just didn't work.
Yeah.
You could evaluate all day why it didn't work.
See, you should have probably watched Vance during the Republican convention, because he was the same exact person. and the same exact personality. And someone that goes through that, they're very down to earth and they're very humble and they can relate well to people. So they totally missed the mark. And you always go back and think, I'm sure, I can't imagine being on that stage because you have all, the moderators against you, and you're trying to get in every word. But the one thing when he said something about imprisoning your political opposition, I thought I probably would have hammered him on that one. I mean,
Right.
especially, going into January 6th, I would have said, well, what about all the people that were just walking
Yeah.
in the Capitol that are still,
Mhm.
in jail or that were arrested? And did you realize that you're still arresting people? But I mean, I thought he did a great job, though.
Jimmy Carter was wheeled outside of his home. I guess he's in a home. It's probably his home. 100 because he turned 100.
100, yeah,
100 years
yeah,
old.
and I know that because I just want to tell you this because
Mhm.
he went to the Naval Academy. So my
That's
daughter, yeah, so they've been having the last few weeks. They have the whole academy together, and they filmed a thing to Happy Birthday to the president and sent it to him. So it's a big thing. The president went to the
Yeah.
academy.
Well, and
Yeah.
he's the oldest living president now or ever. No past president
Oh,
has
I didn't know that.
yeah,
Okay.
lived to be 100 years old. He's been in hospice since February of 2023, and so they rolled him out, and there was a flyover that was done. So that's why he was rolled out, to be able to see the flyover. Of course, they called media or whatever, and some of the headlines talk about how he looked like he's shocking condition. Well, he is 100, and he's been in hospice for a year. I mean, what were you expecting? Like that's, I
It's your
mean,
current
it
president.
was
Okay?
yeah. I know. But I was thinking to myself, well, I mean, he obviously he looks a lot different than he did last time he made some sort of public appearance, but that isn't really shocking because he's 100 years old in hospice care. I mean, that's not that to me. I thought, yeah, that seems to track, but this is the part I thought was just disgusting. So the Gateway Pundit has the story. And they know Jimmy Carter has been in hospice. His son, Jason, claimed that the former president is limited in what he can do, but he keeps up with the news. Quote, he's very limited in what he can do, Jason told CBS. He can't talk on the phone. Carter's son told the Washington Post that Jimmy Carter, his father, former president, doesn't care about his birthday and that he just wants to stay alive so he can vote for Kamala Harris.
What?
And I'm like,
Oh.
okay, well, a couple of things here. Number one, I don't know if I would precede that comment with talking about how he's not really all there and can't even talk on the phone, and he's not
great
necessarily
point.
aware of it. And then you're like, but here's who's you going to vote for. I'm like, I don't really know. So it's like that really. Now I suspect that that's probably not true.
Yeah.
But even if how sad is that? Like your entire life and like all you're not caring about is like instead of spending as much time as I can with my grandkids or grandkids or my family, it's to vote for Kamala Harris. Like
Yeah.
that's really all
Now,
that.
did he actually say that, or did
That's what his son
somebody
said.
that? So,
That's just what he said.
yeah.
But that's not unlike Joe Biden claiming that Bo's dying words were run for president.
right.
I mean, that's what he claimed, and it's like, oh my
my
gosh,
goodness. I know.
is there no level? No low level that these people will sink.
No,
I mean, there's none. They use their own family members' deaths to push forward a political agenda. But even further than that,
Yeah, that's right.
but even further
Yeah.
than that, I'm like, you do. I mean, it clearly this is something that is supposed to help Kamala Harris. But we're talking about Jimmy Carter. Yes, he's 100 years old. He was president. He was seen as one of the more, he wasn't really. He was scandal free. I mean, he was a horrible president in terms of decisions that he made. Yeah, he was horrible in that way. But people, saw him as like a, pretty good guy. And afterwards, he didn't involve himself too tremendously in politics. He did a lot of stuff for Habitat for Humanity, and he was out there trying to do stuff that normal people would do, and but he was a really bad president. And
Yeah, but, I mean, how unpopular he was when Reagan came.
yes,
Obviously, he would
so I'm like,
hostages. He's not considered a good president.
no, he's,
Yeah.
I mean, the gift to him that has been given is the fact he lived long enough to see a president that people arguably think is worse than he was. I mean, he was going to die believing that everyone saw him as the worst president we've had in modern history. But
It's true. Yeah,
but Joe
we had
Biden,
somebody
yeah,
that was worse. Yeah.
right. And so I guess that's a gift to him for living that long. But I'm thinking to myself, if you are wanting to help Kamala Harris, I don't know if being like Jimmy Carter, that's his pick. I don't know that you should say that out loud. I
We
mean,
inflation and
yeah,
high interest rates. Yeah, remember that? Yeah,
yeah,
we
one,
can really relate to that.
yeah, I watched Joe run the country into the ground, and I believe that she can do it too.
Hostages. Oh, we
Yeah,
have that in common as
yeah,
well. Yeah,
quite
yeah, that's
quite
right.
a few things. Christy Fulnecki with us. More coming up. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. Christy Fulnecki is with
Yes.
us.
I do want to mention one
Yes,
thing.
please.
It's a noise though.
What?
Just talking about the song.
Oh.
Well, I mentioned this, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, when Trump was talking about how the majority, I don't know if it was majority, but he mentioned something about evangelicals not voting. And if they voted, that we would have a totally different election. I just hope that this election is going to be a time that Christians look at themselves and what's going on in the country and the culture and that they actually vote. I mean, and gun owners, I was so surprised about that, about not voting. And it's so important. And I probably most of the people on here are going to vote. But when you have things like Amendment 3 and other things that are going to affect our lives, our families' lives, our children's lives, people have a responsibility to vote against that. So, I mean, I was just shocked. I thought, oh, I just assume, gun owners go and vote and Christians vote. And, but a lot of Christians don't even know about Amendment 3, even though you've talked about it. I mean, it's just very important that they do. So
I guess
And-
it seems crazy to me. I don't know. I try to figure out why would some people I understand, but Christians generally have a moral compass. And given right now, especially the stuff with wanting pornography for kids in school and sex change operations for kids and abortion, this is so much more than tax increases or tax cuts.
Yeah. Well, and I heard one lady talk about yesterday. I don't know if she was a reporter. I can't remember. I think it was Glenn Beck or something. And she was saying, a lot of Christians have been disenfranchised and women, because they're very pro-life and they see these candidates come out. I mean, you could say that J.D. Vance wasn't very strong on the abortion issue, that he was kind of talking around it, talking about pro-family. I mean, he was in a hard position too because you have all these
Right.
things going on. But I mean, still, even if you don't think that candidate, the Republican candidate, is the one that's, maybe not the strongest, everything that Trump did when he was in office about, not funding Planned Parenthood, there are many things that you could point to that he was pro-life on. So they do have a track record. And so maybe that's why Christians think, well, they're not as pro-life as I want them to be, so I'm not going to vote.
Yeah, I don't know, because I don't know that a person can be more extreme than I am when it comes to being pro-life. But if I'm choosing between someone that's like, well, I believe that abortion's okay up till 6 weeks, versus someone that says up till birth, that's a pretty easy choice for me. I'm going to weigh in on that, you know, even though I'm against it fully.
But I'm surprised. Like, I obviously have a lot of children, and like their friends' parents. I was talking to a couple of different moms, and they didn't even know about Amendment 3. And I had all these that I got at church, the signs that I've been putting everywhere on in my car. The kids are like, "Why are you stopping everywhere and put these no on 3 everywhere?" But I mean, you have to make yourself uncomfortable, and all the people that listen to this, you have to. I believe
the left has no trouble doing that.
Yeah, you have to make yourself uncomfortable, and bring it up or somehow, because people saw the signs falling in my car, so that was a good opportunity for me to explain that this is going to, and as an attorney reading this, it's going to allow abortion up to the time that the child is born.
Yeah. Part of the problem is. And this is something I think a lot of people don't like to hear, but in terms of action and lobbying as an individual, other people, the left is far more dedicated to promoting abortion than the right is to life. I mean, they really are. Because they have no trouble whatsoever. I mean, and part of it's because people on the left are emotionally driven usually. They're not head driven, and they're angry, and they just don't like people, so they have no trouble getting in someone's face. And their way of going about it's not always the best. But, there's just, even with their elected officials, I mean, they're just so much more dedicated to abortion than the Republican Party is to life.
Yeah, Christians are still afraid to speak out on issues.
And they are.
I mean, they're really afraid. And, I heard yesterday it's something like now it's 70% of people are going to vote for Amendment 3. I mean, that's outrageous.
And it doesn't surprise me, because they do a very good job of making people believe that this will allow abortion only if the child's not viable, and that without it, people who are having miscarriages in Missouri are dying in parking lots. I see these ads where it's like, women are afraid to get pregnant in Missouri. I'm like, well, that's weird, because I know.
The life of the mother is already in the law, so I mean that's already there.
Oh yeah, I know, but because you do have a majority of people aren't like me, extreme when it comes to life, but they kind of like that middle ground, and so they're very comfortable with the idea of being okay with abortion prior to what they're told is viability, because then they can tell themselves, well, if it's not viable, if the baby's not viable anyway, then what does it really matter if she's aborted? And that way they can feel like they are protecting life while at the same time not cruel to someone who was raped by their uncle. And that's where you get that segment of the population. And the left, see, the right for a brief moment, the pro-life, really had the messaging advantage because of the heartbeat thing. And because it's, for a lot of people, this gray area, when does life begin? Again, for me, conception, it's obvious, but that's not what a lot of people believe. They just don't, quote, know. Well, heartbeat, people got that. They understood that. Because how is it, like, you call 911 because somebody passes out, what do they tell you? Is there a pulse? Or that, whenever they call someone as dead and do, 11:52 time of death, it's because their heart stopped. Whenever they try to restart, CPR is to restart a heart. So that messaging, people are like, oh, well, yeah, that is kind of a clear definition of, life. And then all these heartbeat bills started passing successfully because people got that. Well, the left realized it, and so they pivoted. And so then they start with this viability stuff. And so they make it seem like this will only allow for abortions if the child's not viable anyway, the child's not going to be alive anyway, and without this, women are going to be forced to have dead babies, and that's
Well,
that is a very effective misinformation
yeah.
campaign.
And I mean, it summarizes, or this summarizes abortion, is that people care more what other people think than they care about life. Because if you have a teenager, and I know this affects many people in the community, and many people are listening that have a daughter, a niece or someone that has gotten pregnant out of wedlock, or that's a teenage pregnancy. People care more about what other people would think of them than they would about preserving life. And
Yeah.
that's just the fact. And that's for Christians too. And to me,
yeah,
you're
absolutely.
a hypocrite if you think that. And I know there are hard times, but you can always give up the child for adoption. But to me, the abortion political issue starts in your own home. And so you have to stand up as a parent, and a friend and a neighbor, and you have to fight this yourself, because we will never win this debate if you don't speak out against it.
It wasn't easy for people who were anti-slavery to speak up.
That's right. Yeah.
It wasn't easy for German citizens to speak up against the concentration camps and the Jews. Any time that there is a societal force that deems certain segments of the population as not really human, so you can own them, you can gas them, you can murder them, it's difficult to stand up against that. And so, humans have been through this before,
That's
but
right.
the only way you ever beat it is to fight
And
it.
it's when you start devaluing life, like we have for the
Oh,
past
yeah.
50 years. Why do you think they're doing this to our kids about, the abusing and the sex change and all that, and acting like that don't matter? Well, when they're in the womb and you're acting like it doesn't matter, it's the exact same thing.
Yeah, it's the dehumanization of humans. And again, whether it's the unborn, Jews, slaves, whatever the category of people, it's never anything other than a horrific reflection of humanity, dehumanizing people like that. I'm going to take a real quick break,
Okay.
then more with Christy Fulnecki. I'm Nick Reed. Christy Fulnecki, a couple minutes left. Any
Oh
other?
yeah, sorry,
Yes.
I got kind of serious there.
No, it's a
It's
good
a
conversation.
serious. That's right.
Good. Well, I don't know if you heard, but speaking of abortion, the second husband, or whatever he's called, Kamala Harris's husband, of course, he had to admit that he knocked up the nanny, and then apparently the way it's been worded is that she got, quote, rid of it, presumably killed it. He paid her 80 grand to keep her mouth shut about it. And then it turns out this week that he's been credibly accused of beating a girlfriend out in public, hit her so hard it spun her around because he thought she was flirting with a valet.
Is
Clearly
that
reasonable.
fighting or
Yeah.
not?
Yeah. They were at some rich
That's
liberal
terrible.
event. It was a Cannes Film Festival fundraiser or whatever. And so the usual rich Democrat Hollywood celebrities were there. And there was a long line of people waiting for the valet to get their vehicles. So she went up and was going to give $100 to the valet so they could get their car first. And I guess to get her, she put her hand on his shoulder, and he hit her so hard it spun her around because he said she was flirting with him.
Well, and this is who he wanted for the first.
Oh yeah, it'd be great.
What is he has first husband
Yeah.
or first?
That'd be
Whatever it's called.
fantastic.
Yeah, yeah, such great role models. Again, like don't look at these people.
Now-
You need to like.
Well, hey, like Jen Psaki said, he's redefined masculinity. So
Oh, yeah,
apparently
I'm
that
sure,
means
yeah.
knocking up your nanny.
So much for the party about women and helping women. Yeah.
Well, helping them learn their place, evidently, because that appears to be what old Anhoff does.
I'm kitchen anymore. You can't even get
Yeah,
pregnant.
I'm sure.
I mean-
I'm sure he's changed. I'm
Oh
sure
my
he's different
God.
now. She probably fixed him
I
because
know,
she's so
if
good
we-
at.
Selection by a landslide. We have major problems in our country. I'm telling you. I mean, this is pathetic. Everybody has a responsibility, though. I'm telling you. We do. You can't just sit back and watch the TV and expect for things to change. You have to go out and do something. That is my moral of the story. That is my position on abortion. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. As always, tremendous pleasure.
Yes, thank
All right.
you.
And then actually, I won't be here next Thursday, so but
Okay.
neither will you if I.
Right.
Okay, so
fine,
anyway.
okay. But
So
we-
for people listening, we will not be here next. Someone else will.
But after that, we will, because we only
Yep.
have like 2 or 3 weeks till the election.
That's
so.
right. Christy Fonecki,
Yes,
everyone.
thank you.
Springfield Talk 1041. My name is Nick Reed. Welcome to the show. Streaming live, KSGF.com, also YouTube. The YouTube feed is brought to you by the good people at Springfield Wraps. Gonna be doing the show at the fairgrounds tomorrow. I know our Friday home is Scramblers. Will be an exception tomorrow. We are going to be part of Farm Fest, and that's something we haven't done before. So pretty excited about that. In fact, all weekend long. So we'll be out there doing the show. Now, when we're out there, Farm Fest kicks off. I think it's at 9 a.m. So the show will be over. And I mention that because I've had a few people say, "Oh, well, where are you going to be set up so we can come out there for the show?" But the show is going to be going on while everyone's finalizing setups and everything. And then, like I said, I think it's 9 o'clock that it is open to the public. That being said, on Saturdays from noon to 1, we run a best of this show. But I will be out there doing the show live instead on Saturday. So if you want to come by, be doing it. I think that we're going to be set up the E-Plex right around the entrance. You should see us there on the outside. Unless something changes, that's where we'll be. And then on Saturday and Sunday, in addition to that 1 hour live show, I'm going to be visiting and breaking in during commercial breaks so we don't interrupt the programming with some of our partners that are out there: Wheeler Metals, Sandcrest Trailers, Marshfield Chevy, Helitech, Race Brothers, Flying Feathers, Monday Trailers. And as we go through Saturday and Sunday, we'll, like I said, be chatting with those folks on air. So looking forward to this. It's such a huge deal for the area, and we're glad to be part of it. Brad Pistol, host of Safe Money Radio, he's sponsoring us being out there, so a big thank you to him as well. And all that being said, at that very busy weekend that we're going to be having with you, we are going to have Happy Hour at Retro Metro from 4 to 6. So love for you to come by and hang out with us for a bit. And yeah, all right, there we go. I don't have any additional information on that. Do have Author of the Week coming up. Sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone. Our author is another... We've had some past and current members of the CIA, and he has written a book, and it is regarding, in particular, the broken whistle of the whistleblowers when it comes to blowing the whistle on the CIA, and how the whistleblowing status that is meant to protect is, in fact, used sometimes as a weapon against the whistleblowers. And then on the flip side, it is used erroneously as a weapon against politicians. So in other words, if you have been a whistleblower, either FBI or CIA or IRS, that has blown the whistle on the Biden administration, you get demonized, you get punished. But if you are somebody who's not even really a whistleblower against Donald Trump, Vidman, the Soviet-born Vidman, who was labeled as a whistleblower for the Ukrainian phone call, turns out that he wasn't a whistleblower at all in the context of what a whistleblower legally means, but they present him as one, so he could be used as a tool against Donald Trump to try and overthrow the presidency of Trump. And so that's largely what the focus is on our author's book. We'll talk with him coming up here in just a couple of moments. Right now, the latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Color 10 Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today it'll be sunny with a high near 87. Tonight clear with a low around 59. For your Friday, sunny with a high near 87. And on Saturday, sunny with a high near 88.
I'm Nick Reed. It's Thursday, which means it's Author of the Week time, sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone. Our author is Pedro Orta. The book is The Broken Whistle, a deep state run amok. Pedro is a Miami-born son of Cuban immigrants who fled Castro's communism. He brings 18 years of experience as a Central Intelligence Agency veteran to the book, having served in Iraq, Afghanistan, the Middle East, and at the Inspector General to the intelligence community working on whistleblower issues, which once upon a time we had this idea that whistleblowers were protected in this country, but it seems like over the last several years that is not the case, hence the title of the book, I imagine. The Broken Whistle, a deep state run amok. Gosh, I don't even know where to start, other than I'll note that you, I think, are the third or fourth person who has been a sort of whistleblower regarding these issues. Just increasingly, we're having people that either for the FBI or of the CIA, formerly or currently, are coming out and noting the weaponization of these agencies and how they've just gone so wrong. If you would, tell us a bit about your story in the CIA and when you began to realize something was going very wrong.
Thank you, Nick. It's indeed very wrong. It all began with, first of all, I must say, if you are a government employee by U.S. federal law, you are required to report wrongdoing, violations of law to your superiors, the Inspector General, and even Congress through authorized channels. And that requirement is mandated. It's not even voluntary. In my case, I was a supervisor in a war zone. So that responsibility was even greater upon me to do such reporting. And in a war zone, as a deputy chief of base, I witnessed, our lives being endangered through reckless moves for food and yoga classes, a hostile work environment with preferential treatment of some officers over others. And I had to speak up. I spoke up. The end result was a laundry list of reprisals against me that sent me home, what's known short of tour, basically destroyed my career. And I ended up having to take refuge in another government agency on a detail, which is I'm loaned out from CIA to the Office of Inspector General for the Intelligence Community. And in that capacity, I start working on an evaluation that looks into the whistleblower reprisal protections. And we find that there really are none. It's just pretty letters on paper, worthless, unenforceable. And one thing led to another, and I began to blow the whistle, not just on what I had witnessed in that war zone, but also on the broken whistle. And I'm blowing the whistle to senior leaders in the intelligence community at the CIA, Mike Pompeo, at the DNI, Daniel Coates, and managed to get some disclosures, although limited, to Congress. And rather than address these issues, they allow the CIA Office of Security to come in like a big bad bully to beat and bully me and basically threatened to take my clearance away from me. And they took the clearance away from me and fired me a year shy of retirement. That's the short part of the story, because it's a pretty in-depth, detailed story as far as how they basically weaponized the bureaucracy, lawyers, the Inspector General, Equal Employment Opportunity, Human Resources, even the Office of General Counsel to crush me and destroy me.
Do you think that this is just the natural state of any giant government entity, or is this something that once upon a time wasn't the case? I mean, in any institution, you're going to have problems pop up. But as you noted, that, when there is corruption, at one point in time, at least there was the appearance that it was the responsibility and duty, the requirement of people within the agency to report it, to shift from that to where things are now. Is that something that you noticed evolving in your time at the CIA, or was it a problem from the beginning?
This has been a problem for decades, and it never has been resolved. And all these whistleblower laws are weak and unenforceable. And what happens here is the lack of congressional oversight to hold these agencies and personnel accountable basically emboldens and empowers these agencies and personnel in these agencies to take reprisals with impunity. They know they can get away with it, so they do it. I mean, to this date, I mean, if you can look at the most recent cases, like the IRS whistleblowers, the FBI suspendable whistleblowers, we finally had the FBI admit, yeah, we took reprisals against one, Marcus Allen, and they reached some kind of settlement agreement. But despite that settlement agreement, to this date, he hasn't been paid the money the FBI agreed to pay him. And all that Congress does is call whistleblowers up for, show hearings, what I call showmanship, political theater, and grandstanding. And they really do nothing to help the whistleblowers. In my case, Congress did nothing for me. It stood by idly. And in my case, I used the Intelligence Community Whistleblower Protection Act, and they ignored me by the time some of the disclosures got to them, which were limited because the reality is that the CIA refused to send them, the ICIG refused to send them, and, I had to work something out with an attorney to see how I can get something to Congress, and we managed to get something to them, but ultimately I was basically ignored.
We are talking with our author of the week, Pedro Orta. The book is The Broken Whistle, A Deep State Run Amok. What do you think is the reason behind Congress's either unwillingness or inability to do anything meaningful regarding whistleblowers, particularly when it comes to the CIA?
I mean, Congress has a few levers that they can use, a few tools. One of them is appropriations and funding. And Congress refuses to stop the spigot of funding to government agencies. They just allow these government agencies to get their money year in and year out without really any accountability. I mean, continuing to fund rogue government operations is only going to embolden these government operators to do so more with impunity. And why is that? Within the intelligence community, it's limited to two congressional oversight bodies, the Senate Select Committee of Intelligence and the House Permanent Select Committee of Intelligence. And both of those institutions have been absolutely just feckless, worthless. All they do is basically allow the intelligence community to get what they want without minimal to no oversight. In part, the agencies control basically the security clearances for the personnel who are in these oversight committees. Another element of it is, I mean, we're talking about vast, huge government bureaucracies, and these congressional oversight bodies are very limited with few personnel. And it's impossible to do oversight when you have few people looking into these agencies. And on that note, in many times, the people looking into these agencies, the staffers at congressional oversight committees, are basically beholden to these agencies to hold their clearances or for future employment.
Well, I was going to ask you, and I suspect that is part of the answer there, not long after Trump got elected in 2016, and there were reports that came out that he had told the intelligence community he didn't need daily briefings unless there was some new information. And Chuck Schumer was on MSNBC with Rachel Maddow, and Chuck Schumer's response to that was he'd better watch out because the intelligence community has numerous ways to screw you over. And I thought, well, it seems to be one of the more honest things said by an elected official. How much of it do you think is that, whether it's we've got dirt on you or we've got your security clearance?
Well, I mean, look at some cases. Look at Porter Goss. Porter Goss was, I believe he was actually the chairman of the House Permanent Select Committee of Intelligence in Congress during the time of George Bush, the second Bush presidency. And he became the director of the CIA. The CIA basically didn't like him, didn't like the people he brought in. So he had to deal with, this Porter Goss, with a lot of embarrassing leaks. Somebody was leaking, and he was basically forced out. Basically, the CIA found a way to get him out. Look at Petraeus. Petraeus was seen as a threat to Obama, and what he did was wrong, but there's been others out there who have done much worse.
Right.
And the reality is that they basically weaponized the FBI to get him out of there. So, I mean, and looking at Trump, look at the Intelligence Community Whistleblower Protection Act. That entire process was changed, altered, and weaponized to try to impeach him. And that is fact. That is not just hyperbole or exaggeration, because I was the one who basically went public with the change in the form, whereas I had firsthand information that was refused to be sent to Congress. Now we had a non-intelligence community whistleblower with hearsay information coming forward after the process was changed. And on that note, keep in mind that even the Office of Legal Counsel for the Department of Justice ruled that it was not an Intelligence Community Whistleblower Protection Act protected disclosure or a person acting in behalf of intelligence activities with intelligence funding. So it was just totally bogus.
Well, and it's interesting, and you write about this, you're touching on it now. We talk with our author of the week, Pedro Orta, the book, The Broken Whistle, A Deep State Run Amok, that the whistleblower status is at times used as a shield and then other times as a sword. And when it comes to whistleblowers during certain administrations, it seems as if we hear nothing of them. They get dismissed. They get the treatment that you received. But all of a sudden, it seemed as if any random person could obtain the whistleblower status when Trump was president, and they were hailed as these incredible people who at times we weren't even allowed to know who they were. And then, of course, the biggest, I would say, was Vidman regarding the so-called whistleblowing of the phone call with Ukraine of Trump. And that was an instance in which this status appeared to be used as a weapon.
That is accurate. And the problem here also is Congress, how the congressional Democrats have weaponized whistleblowing to target Trump, whereas in the past, sadly, the Democrats were really the most vocal advocates on behalf of whistleblowers. But the political landscape has shifted with such hatred towards Trump that they will use anything and anyone as a whistleblower to try to sink him. Whereas at the same time, if there are any whistleblowers out there who come forward, like the IRS whistleblowers, the FBI suspendables, although on paper they've received help, which really isn't any help from congressional Republicans, the Democrats actually have vilified these IRS whistleblowers and FBI whistleblowers as villains, with actually referrals for prosecution to the Department of Justice for basically claiming that they lied under oath, this is crazy. I mean, you're willing to go forward with a whistleblower like Vindman, who the Department of Justice said he's not a whistleblower and he has no protections and his disclosures don't even meet the statutory language of the law. Whereas now you've got some real whistleblowers, the IRS whistleblowers and the FBI suspendables, and you're basically throwing them under the bus.
When Trump got elected in 2016, this will be a final question, unless I think of another that sometimes happens, and then any final thoughts that you have. And our author, again, is Pedro Orta. The Broken Whistle is the book, A Deep State Run Amok. When it comes to Trump and getting elected the first time around, and there was a clean out the swamp, drain the swamp, and I think Trump even underestimated what would be required in order to do that. There are some who think if he does, he'll get elected again and he's allowed to get back into the White House, that he is going to have to, like never before, really truly clean house. There are others that say that the culture of corruption is just way too deep, that they've been planning ahead of time, whether it be Trump or someone else that is honest and would want to clean up, to infiltrate these different entities within our government so deeply that you can never get rid of them. Do you think if Trump does get elected president that he can do anything that meaningfully will get us back on track when it comes to these institutions?
Really great question there. And the reality is that you are right. The odds of him trying to clean up these agencies is really stacked against him. And there are two elements of it. One is he's going to have to find some strong political appointees that can get confirmed through Congress, Senate particularly. And once they go into these agencies, for these individuals to go in there and begin to change the culture, change the personnel, and transform these agencies. And it's hard to find people that are willing to do that. Historically, I mean, you can go back and look and see who has been a strong CIA director who put their basically their personality, their political posture, positions in place in these agencies. And the last thing he needs to do is find resume padders. Unfortunately, you have a lot of people who go into these positions looking to pad their resumes so that they can run for office in the future. And I don't want to throw any names, but they're very obvious. Just look at the last presidential election cycle. Who wanted to run for president and chose not to run? Who served under Trump? So he's going to have to find people like, the pool of personnel is limited. But, we've got Robert F. Kennedy, Tulsi Gabbard. We've got maybe a few congressional members right now who are really like Thomas Massey, Rand Paul, people that really go against the establishment, Vivek, Elon, people of that caliber is the only way to transform these agencies.
Our author, Pedro Orta, the book again, The Broken Whistle, A Deep State Run Amok, sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone. For Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed. Coming up 10 a.m. tomorrow at KSGF.com. We done got the local for Les Ozarks. Half-price combo passes to Hotel of Terror and Dungeons of Doom, normally $43. You will have access to them for $21.50. Again, that will be 10 a.m. tomorrow. Local for Les Ozarks at KSGF.com.
Springfield's Talk 1041, your first alert forecast from Color 10 Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we'll have sunny skies with a high near 87. Tonight, clear with a low around 59. For your Friday, sunny with a high near 87. And on Saturday, sunny with a high near 88. The Pyramid Roofing Company, now is the time to get your home prepped for fall and winter, and that includes your roof as well. Now, Josh, he joined us on Friday, and he said that the average wait time to get a new roof install is about 2.5 weeks. So now really is a great time to get that work scheduled, whether you are wanting to do a free roof inspection to just kind of check on the health of your roof, or maybe you've been putting off some of that storm damage that happened back in May. Either way, the Pyramid Roofing Company, they can help you out. Now, whenever they come out, they won't make you sign anything. They won't make you sign anything while you are working through that insurance process as well. And most roofing companies don't do that, by the way. And then they're going to get you on the books and make sure that your roof is ready for that cooler weather. It's as simple as that. So if you do need to have the Pyramid Roofing Company out at your home, give them a call and schedule that appointment today. And you can find all of the contact information for the Pyramid Roofing Company under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at KSGF.com.
Hey everyone, it's Caitlin Pack.
Hey.
How are
Hello.
you? How's it?
Great.
Yeah, excellent. I got rhythm coming up. Yes.
We're really excited for our second show of the season.
Springfield Symphony,
Yeah.
Saturday.
Yes, Saturday at 7:30 at Hammond's Hall. So we are very excited for this concert. It's going to be something really new to our symphony and just to the U.S. We are bringing the amazing composition from Thailand, and it's going to be the second time it's ever been performed in the U.S. It's right here in Springfield.
Wow.
So it's called Sound, Echo, and Silence. It focuses on two really neat traditional Thai instruments, the can and the pin.
Okay.
And we have guest artists coming from Thailand from the to come perform with our orchestra.
Wow.
And it's this really cool piece that really just seamlessly blends the traditional Thai and the Western orchestra sound.
That will be. Where was it performed the other time?
It was Kyle had it at his performance this last weekend in Topeka.
Oh,
So Kyle heard this piece when he was conducting in China last year, and they just sort of like, wow, this is the most amazing thing we've heard. We need to bring it to the symphony here.
Yeah.
And so he worked with the composer and brought it here.
Well, that'll be neat.
Yeah, it's going to be something really special that you're not going to hear anywhere else. And then, so that's the first half of the program. And then the second half of the program is going to be Tchaikovsky Symphony No. 4. So beautiful classic piece that we all know and love.
More familiar.
Yeah, so you kind of get like something new and something old. It's going to be a really cool show.
Behind the baton.
Absolutely. Behind the Baton is today at 5:30, 5:45-ish at First and Calvary across the street from Hammond's
I like
Hall.
the casual nature.
Yeah,
Wow,
it is. And so we'll have both the guest artists there, and they'll be able to do demonstrations, and you really get to see
Right.
what these cool instruments are.
Are they string?
So
what-
one is a like string, it's kind of like a lute
Okay.
kind of thing, and then the other one is like a pipe organ harmonica thing. I think Kyle said it has like 16 different pipes on it, but you can play it like a harmonica. It's really, really unique, but it's really cool.
It's interesting to me that, I mean, I guess this goes without saying, but that there are these instruments in other parts of the world that you'll come across, or at least for me, I'd never even heard of such a thing.
Absolutely.
There are certain things like Australia, people know of that, whatever the thing is called.
Didgeridoo?
Yeah, the didgeridoo, because they've seen it in commercials, or the Ricola commercials, with the long horns, and they don't know what
Yes.
they're called. Some do, I don't. But then you come across
Yeah.
some of these things. Now, are those instruments, you said the pin and the what?
In the can.
And the can. Are those really just isolated to Thailand, or is it an Asian or
Mostly centralized to
Okay.
Thailand. I think it's over in that area. It's probably more common than it is here.
Okay.
I've never heard of it, but it's really cool and provides some really cool sounds. And if you go to our social media pages, we have some clips of
Okay.
the performers practicing and rehearsing with it. And it's really neat.
Are there any instruments that outside of that are just part of the U.S., I wonder, but not elsewhere?
Oh, I know there's a lot of people just who are I see on like social media and all the stuff that create their own instruments
Yeah.
these days, and that's really cool.
Right.
But I don't know if anything that's like centralized to just
Oh,
the U.S.
Interesting. Well, that'll be a good one then.
Yeah,
That'll
it's
be
going to be a
fantastic.
really fantastic one.
If people want to buy tickets.
Yes, tickets are always available at springfieldmosymphony.org or at the Hammonds Hall box office.
In the can.
Yes.
I got rhythm. Great to see you.
You too.
All right. Have a fantastic rest of your day. That's Springfield Symphony. Of course, we'll also have all the information up on our social media as well if you want to purchase tickets for that. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. If you need a realtor, you got Emily Johnson. We're actually very fortunate in this area to have her, and that is because she goes way above and beyond, even those who go way above and beyond. Some of my favorite feedback I get is from, or that I see rather, it doesn't come directly to me, but I see postings of it, and are people who have moved from out of state and they've come here and they needed someone to help them. And the additional challenges of being, California, for example, and moving to Missouri, and they, know someone here, maybe it's family or friends, and ask them, hey, do you know any realtors? And like Emily Johnson, and just hearing their almost astonishment at the level of care and attention and focus they get from Emily, because you can only imagine if you're moving to a new area, you've got to find a home, and how daunting that can be from afar to do that, and how stressful that can be. And so I also kind of think it's cool as an introduction to the area, somebody moving to the area, to have that sort of experience. Like, oh my gosh, is this what it's like here? I just love those particular reviews, but they're all positive. You can see the experience that people have had with Emily Johnson, either buying homes, selling homes, getting advice about it, or trying to do all of it at once. That's Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty, KSGF.com. You can find her under Nick's endorsements. Liz Cheney is going to be campaigning with and or for Kamala Harris in Wisconsin. I got to tell you, now, I know there are times in which there are political moves that are made that you, if you're not part of the you're like, well, I wonder what they're thinking is here. What's their strategy here? But there are other times that I think that particularly Kamala Harris, and whether it's her or her campaign, make these decisions that make no sense whatsoever. The fact that she declared she was honored in order to have Dick Cheney endorse her, honored. Here's what I think occurs. Because the Democrats in particular don't really truly anchor themselves to any truth. They assume that everyone else is that same way. Okay? I'll give you an example. The Democrats for years and years and years told Americans that when it came to a man's personal life who was running for office, their personal relationships, that it did not matter. And that even if there were some, maybe, and this is largely the Bill Clinton era, sexual harassment, hey, we aren't electing the Pope, right? And so that was just really pounded away until a significant segment of the population got to where they, as a combination of agreed with that or just didn't care anymore. Like, I don't care what they do in their personal lives. I don't care, Well, when Arnold Schwarzenegger decided to run for the governorship in California as a Republican, they, of course, did everything they could to stop him from getting elected, and they trotted out all these allegations that he was a womanizer and everything. Well, no one cared. And Democrats couldn't figure that out because in their minds, you can one day be outraged by something, but then the next day not be. I mean, look at the way that Kamala Harris's campaign is being run. A year ago, building a border wall was a medieval vanity project, was racist. And then today, it's something that she films herself in campaign ads next to, pretending that she was responsible for it. Fracking was something that was horrible, going to destroy the planet. Well, today it's not. And now with the base, they're fine with this because they don't care about issues. And the base also is not anchored in any real moral belief or truth. It's just about, this is the person that we follow. This is our leader. Whatever the leader says, we will support. It doesn't matter what it is. It's that the fact that she said it, that's all that matters. But there is that middle ground America that doesn't necessarily like that sort of thing so much because they see it as hypocritical and they see it as this person they don't have any real truths. This person doesn't have any real moral compass. They just say whatever it'll take to get elected. The fact that the Democrats are so used to that and not having a problem with it has been displayed on numerous occasions, including when Bernie Sanders openly admitted on one of the Sunday morning news shows that Kamala Harris was just saying what she had to say in order to get elected. And I think a lot of people were astonished that he would say that out loud and thought, what, is he trying to undermine her? But Democrats are so comfortable with that, saying whatever you have to say in order to win, that they don't recognize that there's still a segment of the American population that doesn't care for them. So Liz Cheney and the whole Cheney family, of course, a bunch of war criminals, whenever Dick Cheney endorses Kamala Harris, they don't think twice about bragging about it because in their minds, the narrative of the day is Kamala Harris is so loved and Donald Trump is so hated, even Republicans will support her. And they detach themselves from the fact that they have talked about what an evil war criminal Dick Cheney was all that time. Well, again, while the base, they're fine with that because they're not anchored to any moral compass or any truth. Middle America, your independent voters are much more likely to go like, well, wait a minute here. What? Wait, what does she stand for? If at 1 minute Dick Cheney is a war criminal, but the next you're honored to have a war criminal? But this doesn't make any sense. So I observe Liz Cheney. Liz Cheney, like you're really going to have her out on the campaign trail? Now they're thinking just what they're thinking when they brag about a war criminal named Dick Cheney supporting her. That, well, this is part of our narrative that even Republicans are supporting Kamala Harris because Donald Trump is so dangerous and awful. And they're hitting Wisconsin as a swing state because she's sort of, upper Midwest and she'll relate just like Tim Walz relates. And we can pull over those independent voters and maybe even Republican voters. Now, the problem here, and this is why I think it's a mistake and it's idiotic, is that Republicans don't like Liz Cheney. She got shellacked in the primary. In fact, I'd be interested to know if there was ever a Republican incumbent running for re-election that got beat as badly as she did. If so, it's got to be rare. And I don't remember the number, but they were so crazy. It was embarrassing that she even decided to run. So you're not really going to win Republicans over because of that. But the independent voters, they know how Democrats have portrayed the Cheneys. And there are going to be a lot of those individuals that see through this, but here's where the real potential danger is. You have these third-party Jill Stein people. Wisconsin is a state. The state that many people believe is the reason Donald Trump beat Hillary Clinton, because Jill Stein was on that ballot, and she siphoned off enough votes from Hillary Clinton to hand the victory to Donald Trump. Now, I forget if they have been successful in getting her off the ballot in Wisconsin. I know they've been trying to because, again, they can't win elections legitimately on the issues, so they have to rig them. So they're going around the country, and they're trying to kick people off the ballot that they believe are going to hurt them. I'm not sure where things stand in Wisconsin at this time. But even if she's not on the ballot, those Jill Stein voters, the left-wing voters who support her for a number of reasons, but up to and including, because the warmongers out there, and they hate Israel. They're usually anti-Semitic. Those people with a white-hot rage hate Republicans and people like Dick Cheney and Liz Cheney. And so while you're looking at a state in which the Jill Stein-style supporter caused, arguably, Hillary Clinton to lose that state, and here you've got Kamala Harris over there campaigning with Liz Cheney, someone that is just going to reinforce in the minds of those left-wing Democrats that Kamala Harris is part of the problem. Other than Dick Cheney himself, I don't know strategically that there's a more foolish move that she could make than running around with Liz Cheney in Wisconsin to campaign. But hey, have at it. We were talking earlier with Caitlin Pack, Springfield Symphony, and about the upcoming performance on Saturday. It sounds really cool. It's going to be only the second time ever that these particular instruments in this performance from Thailand are going to be in the United States, and it's called a pin and a can. And we actually have tickets you can win. So what do people do if they want to
That's
win?
right. You just text the Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line. That phone number is 417-447-5743. Text the word WIN, WIN, and that's it. I'll give them away later today.
So I was talking last hour about this move that to me just seems so boneheaded. Unless they have some sort of analysis that isn't made public, and that is the Kamala Harris campaign having Liz Cheney campaign for her in Wisconsin. Now, they claim it's supposed to get the moderate Republicans. I don't think that that's going to work. But furthermore, you have the Jill Stein component in there. And Democrats have been trying to throw her and some other third-party candidates off ballots in areas that they think it's going to be hurtful. In states, incidentally, where they think RFK Jr. will hurt Trump, they're trying to force him to. In Wisconsin, in fact, one of those states, he's been trying to get himself off the ballot in Wisconsin, and the Democrats have gone to court to try to keep him on the ballot. So as usual, they're trying to rig the elections, everyone that they can. But the last story I could find, it was from the end of August, and that was that the appeals court refused to hear a challenge to Jill Stein being on the ballot, and she will be on the ballot in Wisconsin. And Jill Stein, if you have these extreme, they call themselves and fancy themselves as anti-war. They're more anti any sort of war that the U.S. is involved in. But she really caters to those people. And Liz Cheney is seen, and some of it is because of her father, but as part of the war establishment, the neocons, the individuals that love perpetual wars because their donors have connections that fill their bank accounts with money hand over fist whenever there's war at hand. So, in a state that Hillary Clinton is arguably believed to have lost because Jill Stein siphoned off those extreme left-wing votes from her, handing Wisconsin to Donald Trump. And the fact that she is, at this point, going to be on the ballot again in Wisconsin, that Kamala Harris would campaign in that state for somebody that is increasingly likely to get left-wing Democrats to abandon Kamala Harris and vote for Jill Stein. Unless, again, they have some brilliant strategy here due to information access they have that hasn't been made public. This seems to me like a gift to Donald Trump. And I don't. Kamala Harris is known for making bad decisions. So this could perhaps just be another illustration of that. Glenn Beck's next. I'm Nick Reed.